James Soller, who trains Rewarded, who is the only runner left in the conditions race later on today, has just come over, and he thinks it's a shame as well. I mean, obviously he gets the money, he's pleased with that, but you know, he said he'd like to get a run into the horse, and it's a real shame it doesn't really suit his plans either.
No, he looked vaguely sort of, not embarrassed is the wrong word, but you know, it's one of those things basically. You can understand the reasons, entirely understand the reasons. It's a real shame for the course, shame for the race, but you can, I mean, the circumstances are quite exceptional. It is, times are telling you, the round course is pretty soft.
Yeah. OK, so that's a shame. That's our 3:30, which is not a race, it's a walkover, unfortunately. Let's look ahead to a race that will be a race, and hotly contested as well, the Kipco 1000 Guineas. We'll start with Discourse, one of two for Godolphin. Behind her that day she had Lily's Angel. This was way back in August when she won the Sweet Solera. It was a much improved performance. It was her second ever run, and she took a huge step forward and was really quite impressive. A good turn of foot she's got.
At this stage of the year, she looked the best filly, or a 2-year-old filly around. Lovely action she's got as well, really fluent mover. You see, you know, she sort of points her toes when I think Frankie rode her this day, lets her down, and she was really promising. She would have run. The intention was to run her, I think, in the sort of fillies mile and race like that later in the year, but she had a little setback and missed the end of the season, which is a real shame. If she's fit and well, if she comes back, you know, if she's in this sort of form, she's a threat to everything come the day.
OK, so that is Discourse then, who won the Sweet Solera. We can take a look at her stable companion Lyric of Light, who won the Fillies Mile. Behind her she had Samatar in second and Furdoors in third. I think Furdoors has been taken out, hasn't she? I'm fairly sure she has.
I think so, yeah. Yes, and this, I mean, she's done it well this day. She won the May Hill just before this, very narrowly, and the connections, and I think it was fairly obvious that she's hit the front some way out and idled, so they tried to hold on to her a bit longer. Things didn't go entirely to plan the dip. You see she just sort of becomes unbalanced momentarily, and it's allowed the runner up on the rails, and it's Scimitar, to just nick a couple of lengths at a vital stage, and Scimitar in those days was in good form. In the end, I think she's won, and she's won OK. I think she's won with a little bit in hand, but you know, she's a good filly. She doesn't win by far, but she, despite edging to her right and looking slightly awkward, she has got a pretty good attitude. She'd say she's won 2 big races narrowly. She's a player. I mean, we know she's a good filly. I slightly prefer Discourse of the two Marmaduke Zaruni horses personally, but I can see the argument for Lyric of Light.
I remember that Frankie Dettori said after winning that race that she found the combination of the dip and fast ground a little bit much, and he was having to nurse her down it whilst keep her in contention in order to be able to win the race, which she just about managed to pull off.
Actually, the pictures really back up those words, don't they? You can see you almost can't let her go, and at that stage, the run up on the rails is just getting a bit of an advantage. I think she picked her rival off quite nicely. I don't think she's ever a filly who's going to win by a very long way.
Oh yeah, that's a point as well, actually, that she's not that kind of horse. She is always going to just do enough.
Definitely. When she won the May Hill, she cruised into the lead about a furlong out, went about a length and a half clear, and just held on from a horse who met her again that day, and she beat further, being held up, Fallen Gold, or the horse of John Dunlop's in there, or anyway, whatever.
John Gossard's Fallen for You, was it? Fallen in Love, Fallen for You, one of the two.
Completely bang. Anyway, apologies, but I think they've just worked out they need to hold on to the horse. It's just things almost got out of hand on the dip that day.
OK, let's take a look at the Prix Imprudence, and this was won by Mashura. Prix Imprudence, of course, over 7 furlongs. She did get caught close home in the final furlong of her final start as a 3-year-old as a 2-year-old over a mile. My concern about her is whether the mile at Newmarket might find her out.
Yeah, I think it's a worry. She's a turn of foot horse. She won comfortably this day, you'll see. This is over 7 furlongs, and she was always going well. She settled it quickly, and he's won very cosily. The jockey has sort of been very easy on her. And she's won nicely. She's looking round there and already taking a pull. Now, it's impressive. Form as it stands, an awful lot of horses close up, and I don't think it was necessarily a massive improvement on what she did as a 2-year-old. Probably a bit of an improvement, but she has got to prove she gets a mile, and it'll be a different sort of race. I think she's one of those horses that I think the French racing really suits. She's got a sharp turn of foot. You know, I think that's very important in French. They've ridden for turn of foots in steadily run races a lot of the time. She's got that. I think it'll be slightly different for her at Newmarket, but she's a good filly.
OK, let's take a look at Grey Pearl, who is another contender. We can show you her third at Newmarket, again from last season. If she does line up in the 1000 Guineas, will be making her debut.
Yes. Again, the question really whether she's quite good enough. Is it the Rockfell? I think it is the right, isn't it? When wading,
Yes, it is, yeah.
Wading's a very good filly, and that's been just a bit too slow to hand, and maybe it's going to want further. She ran really well without looking necessarily top class. I think she looked a very, she's a promising filly. I do think wading is very useful, but I think on this evidence she's going to be just short of, winning her 1,000 guineas.
Okay. Let's take a look at the Nell Gwyn. So this is this season's form. It was won by a Centipede who isn't in the 1,000 guineas, but in behind her there are plenty that still are. Nayara in second, Lily's Angel in third, Starscope, who ran quite well, in fourth, Lady Gorgeous fifth, Sunday Times in sixth.
Yeah, he was competitive, but again, I don't think it was a vintage renewal, and I do think there was an advantage of being somewhere up the pace, and for that reason I think Starscope has done quite well to finish where she did. She ends up fourth, and she's done by far the best of the horses held up. The winner was never that far away, and I think it was a tactical affair. It's not original. Loads of other people felt the same thing. I just did not think this was a top-class renewal in the Nell Gwyn. There were so many horses with a chance. Look at that picture there. It looked more like a handicap. She's run well, the winner, but it's hard to think that any of these are exceptional. I do think Starscope is better than she looks because she's come from so far back.
Yes, she was wearing the first-time hood. She was disadvantaged where she ended up racing and has stayed on strongly. You think she's going to like the extra furlong. I've got a sneaking feeling, not for the Guineas, but that Nayara will probably have a good season at her level, because I think she's the kind of horse that will pull out just a little bit all the time. And I think even she might be able to deal with a little bit of a step up in trip.
Fair enough. I mean, I think there would be good horses in that race. I think there will be. It was a tactical affair, and how reliable a literal guide it's going to be, I've definitely got doubts.
OK, let's take a look at some Group 1 form. This is from last season. It's the Cheveley Park over 6 furlongs. It was won by Lightning Pearl, quite impressively, quite comfortably really, although she runs around a little bit in front. That's because she's been out by herself in front for quite a long way. And in second she has Sunday Times, and in seventh Lady Gorgeous again.
Well, we've just seen both those horses who run in the Nell Gwyn. Sunday Times was another horse who wasn't well positioned in the Nell Gwyn, did quite well to finish where she did, and Lady Gorgeous wasn't beaten far. And Lightning Pearl's beat them really well this day. This proves that she's a Group 1 filly. She won nicely. She's got some ground to make up on maybe on a meeting earlier than this in Ireland, but she's a good filly. She was definitely idling in front. She definitely handles the track. It's been the target all winter. I mean, she has, she's a serious player.
She is, and I think there's the reason to think on both sides of her pedigree that a step up to a mile will probably suit her.
I think it will. I think she was idling that day as opposed to weakening. So, yeah, the Cheveley Park has been a good guide, Nasagora not too long ago, for this race in the past.
OK, next up we're going to talk about Diala, who won at Newmarket at the back end of last season in October. Now, we've heard quite extensively both from Maureen and William Haggis about how this horse has been coming along this season, and the thinking of that is possibly not quickly enough.
That's what it sounded like. And didn't she miss her race at the end of last season? She was really impressive to say. Visually, one of the more impressive winners of a Newmarket Maiden, I think. I mean, she was outclassed her rivals, and she really did look promising. She was going to run a couple of weeks later, and probably, they decided not to. And yes, from listening to the interviews, it appears she's been a little slow to come to hand. Once race is going to be, lightly race is going to be difficult for experience-wise to win a Guineas, but I think she is a filly of a lot of potential. There are other good races later in the year, which I think she'll probably feature in.
Yes. William was saying that she hasn't grown a great deal, and there was one point where he was worrying that because her dam was a bit like that, she didn't really seem to train on that much, and at the moment there was a point where he was worried that would be the case with her. She's beginning to show a little, but whether she'll be getting to the church on time, given that's the thing about these Guineas, they do come very early in the season, and as I mentioned before, it can so often be about timing.
It can. You can't afford much of a setback, can you? And if you get a bad winter, it wasn't a bad winter this year, but that can hold fillies up. So yeah, I think if you are interested, you should really certainly wait till she turns up on the day before getting involved.
OK, and finally we're going to take a look at the Fugue, who won the other division of the maiden that was won by her stable companion Starscope, but she put up the better time. She's bred to get further, and she pretty much whizzed down the dip, and you and I were working this day, weren't we, and we really liked the performance.
Well, both backs are for the Oaks, which that was my idea. I think I'm just trying to read between the lines. I think she's forced her way into the Guineas, because certainly reading things at the beginning of the year, I think Pretty Polly and Oaks appeared to be the way they were going. And I think I am assuming it'll work. She had a race called Scallop with a couple of stable companions recently. She now appears to be likely to run the Guineas. I suspect that means she's been working pretty well. It's impossible to talk about the race without talking about Baby. I know it's not. She hasn't been winning on our channel, but she is a rock solid favourite. In terms of what she's done compared to the 2,000 Guineas, she's a 5-time winner, she's a Group 1 winner already. She hasn't tried a mile yet, but she ought to love it on breeding, and certainly have a 7. She looks like she'll suit it. I think she is genuinely should be a 7-4 favourite. I think she's got less doubt about her. She's got experience. She's had 5 runs, so loads of things in her favour. I think she is going to be very hard to beat.
Yeah, she's progressed with every start and right up to the highest level, and you have to feel that she's got more to give this season. Lovely pedigree, going to get the mile. Lot to like about her. She's hard to knock as a 7-4 favourite.
I think so. I mean, of the 2 that we've just seen, it's easier to make it might be the Camelot is different class in the Guineas, but you can make a real form case for maybe, can't you? The other one is more what you imagine he might do. It maybe sets the standard already, and there's no reason to think she won't be a better 3-year-old than 2-year-old. She's a really good type of horse, and she's, I'd say the mile should be absolutely no bother.
Same 3 questions. 1, have you had a bet in the 1,000 Guineas?
No.
Who would you be your selection now? Selection is the likeliest winner, and who would be your bet at those prices?
To be honest, it probably would be the same. I don't back at 7-4, but I think 7-4 is fair value. I think maybe is my selection. I think maybe we'll win.
Okay. I have had a bet in the 1,000 Guineas. I've backed Lightning Pearl. I definitely would put her up at those prices. I think she's overpriced, and she'd probably be my selection as well. I think she can find quite a bit of improvement over the extra 2 furlongs. If I'm honest, even though it is a selection as well, I know that maybe sets a very good standard and might just be her better, but just the disparity in the 2 prices, I'd rather go for that as my selection as well. I don't know whether that quite makes sense.
It falls for an outsider, and again, only because I backed her for the Oaks, and I know you like her as well. I think the feud might run pretty well. I just have a feeling she's forced her way in by the way she's working.
Okay. Again, you can see that race live on Racing UK on Sunday week as the Kipco 1,000 Guineas.